Stop. Right now. Before you do anything else. I need you to be honest with yourself. Think about yesterday morning. Not the morning you planned. The morning that actually happened. What was the first thing you did when your eyes opened? Was it intentional? Was it yours? Or did your hand move before your mind even woke up? Before you were even conscious of who you are? Before you remembered what you wanted to do with your life? Before you had a single thought of your own? You were already consuming someone else's world. A notification. A text. A headline. A post. And in that moment, that tiny, invisible moment, you made a choice. You chose to let the world in before you had built any walls. You chose to be shaped before you chose who to be. And the terrifying thing? You didn't even know you were choosing. That's how automatic it is. That's how deeply the habit has been wired. Most people wake up and immediately surrender their mind. Notifications. Distractions. Arguments from last night. Anxieties about tomorrow. Other people's emergencies. Other people's opinions. Other people's drama. And by the time they step out of bed, they're already exhausted. Already behind. Already reactive. Already living someone else's life. And the worst part? They'll do the exact same thing tomorrow. And the day after that. And 10 years from now. They'll look back and wonder where all the time went. They'll wonder why they never became the person they always thought they'd be. And the answer will trace all the way back to the morning. To the habit nobody talks about. To the invisible surrender that happens while the alarm is still ringing. But here's what nobody tells you. That moment, that first moment of consciousness, is the most powerful moment of your entire day. The most raw. The most malleable. The most open to direction. And you are wasting it. Every single morning. Now, I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm here to give you something. Because what if I told you that for over 2,000 years? Some of the most powerful, disciplined, and mentally unbreakable people who ever lived had a system for that exact moment? A system built not on motivation, which fades. Not on willpower, which runs out. But on philosophy. On principle. On a way of seeing the world that makes control natural. Not forced. The Stoics. And today, I'm going to give you their morning routine. Step by step. In full detail. Not the watered-down version you've heard before. The real thing. The thing that can actually change how your mind works. Stay with me through this entire video. Because I'm also going to show you the one mistake. The single, silent, almost invisible mistake. That destroys everything. Even if you do every other step perfectly. You need to know what it is. And you need to know why it's so hard to catch. Don't skip ahead. This video is the system. Let it work. Part 1. Why your morning is quietly destroying you. I want to tell you about two men. Both of them lived extraordinary lives. Both of them faced enormous pressure. Both of them had every reason to be overwhelmed. The first man is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome. 161 AD. He inherited the most powerful empire the ancient world had ever known. At any given time, he was managing military campaigns on multiple fronts, dealing with political corruption within his own palace, navigating the devastating Antonine Plague, which was killing thousands of people every single day, raising children, managing his own grief, and trying, genuinely trying, to be a good person. He had every excuse to be a tyrant. Every excuse to become cruel, paranoid, selfish, reactionary. Power corrupts. History proves it over and over again. But Marcus Aurelius was different. And historians have spent centuries trying to understand why. Here's what they found. Every morning before the empire demanded anything from him, Marcus would sit. And he would write. Not laws. Not decrees. Not strategy. He wrote to himself. He asked himself hard questions. He reminded himself of his values. He confronted his weaknesses, on paper, in private, before the day gave him the chance to hide from them. What became known as Meditations, one of the most widely read books in the world 2,000 years later, was never meant to be a book at all. It was a man's private conversation with himself. Morning after morning after morning. He wrote things like, "Begin the morning by saying to yourself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial." Think about that. This man, the most powerful person alive, started every single morning preparing his mind for difficulty. Not expecting the world to be easy. Not hoping today would be the day things finally went smoothly. He prepared. He armed himself psychologically. And because of that preparation, when difficulty arrived, and it always arrived, he was ready. Now the second man. His name was Epictetus. And his story is almost the exact opposite of Marcus's in every external way. He was born a slave. In the city of Hierapolis, in what is now Turkey. He had no wealth. No power. No freedom. At some point, his master deliberately broke his leg as a demonstration of power. Epictetus reportedly said quietly as his leg was being twisted, "You are going to break it." And when it broke, he said simply, "Did I not tell you?" No rage. No despair. Just observation. Just a calm awareness that the body could be broken, but something inside him could not. He was eventually freed, and he became one of the most influential teachers in the ancient world. People traveled from across the empire to hear him speak. And here is what he taught, over and over, in different ways for decades. The only thing that is truly yours is your mind. Not your body. Not your reputation. Not your wealth. Not your relationships. Your mind. Your judgment. Your response to what happens. That's it. That's everything. One man, born at the top of the world. One man, born at the bottom. Both of them arrived at the exact same truth. The morning is where you either claim your mind, or surrender it. And most people are surrendering it without knowing it. Here's why. The science of the waking mind. For the first 15 to 30 minutes after you wake up, your brain is in a transitional neurological state. Scientists call it the hypnopompic state. It's the bridge between REM sleep and full conscious awareness. During this window, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, decision-making, and critical thinking, is still warming up. Your amygdala, the emotional, reactive part of your brain, is already fully active. Your theta brain waves are still dominant. These are the same waves associated with deep creativity, suggestion, and emotional openness. In simpler terms, you are maximally open and minimally defended. Every input hits harder. Every negative image lands deeper. Every piece of anxious news gets absorbed more completely. And the emotional tone that gets set in this window? It follows you. Research in cognitive psychology shows something called affective forecasting, the idea that your early emotional state in the morning predicts how you'll interpret events for the next several hours. Start anxious, you interpret neutral events as threats. Start distracted, your brain stays in reactive mode, unable to focus. Start comparing, you spend the day chasing validation instead of doing meaningful work. This is not metaphor. This is neurological fact. And yet, in this exact window, this priceless, biologically sensitive window, most people shove their phone in front of their face. They hand the most impressionable version of their mind to algorithms specifically designed to trigger emotion, outrage, comparison, and craving. These platforms are not neutral. They are engineered by teams of the world's smartest people, using the world's most sophisticated behavioral science, specifically to keep you engaged, specifically to trigger just enough anxiety, comparison, and dopamine, that you keep scrolling. And you hand your most vulnerable mental state directly to them. Every single morning. The Stoics had a phrase for this kind of surrender. Akrasia. Acting against your own better judgment. Doing what you know is bad for you because in the moment it feels easier. And the morning scroll is the most widespread form of acrasia in human history. Billions of people, every single morning, doing something they know, on some level, is not serving them. And then wondering why they feel scattered, anxious, behind, and out of control by 9 a.m. Let me be direct. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are simply running a program that was installed without your permission. And today, we are going to uninstall it. The cost nobody calculates. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many mornings do you have left? If you're 30 years old, and you live to 80, you have roughly 18,000 mornings left. If you're 40, 12,000. If you're 50, 7,000. That sounds like a lot. But think about what happens to each one. You wake up, scroll, rush, react, get through the day, fall into bed, repeat. Multiply that by 18,000. And what do you get? A life that happened to you. Not a life you chose. Not a life you built. A life you survived. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher and one of the wealthiest, most powerful men in ancient Rome, wrote something that has haunted me since I first read it. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. He was writing about how people squander their time on things that don't matter. On distraction. On other people's demands. On noise. On everything except what they actually value. 2,000 years ago, he was describing your morning scroll. The tragedy isn't that life is short. The tragedy is that we make it shorter by how we spend our attention. Because attention is not just time. Attention is life. Where your attention goes, your life goes. And if your attention goes to noise, comparison, and reactivity every single morning, then that is what your life is being built from. Every day. One distracted morning at a time. This is why the morning matters so much. It is not just one part of the day. It is the source. Build the source right. And everything downstream runs cleaner. Build it wrong. And no amount of effort later in the day can fully compensate. So let's build it right. Part 2, the Stoic Morning Routine. 5 steps. Each one building on the last. Each one ancient in origin, and proven in practice. Let's go through them one by one. Slowly. Completely. Because rushing through them would be missing the point. Step 1. Wake up in silence, 1500 hours to 2400 hours. No phone. No music. No news. No podcast. No television in the background. No noise of any kind. Just you. And silence. Now I know this already feels wrong to some of you. Because we live in a culture that has pathologized silence. Seriously, think about it. When was the last time you sat in true silence for 5 minutes? Not waiting for something to start. Not in between tasks? Just sitting. With nothing. With yourself. If you can't remember. That's important information. That tells you something. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Most people are afraid of silence because they are afraid of themselves. When the noise stops. When there is nothing to react to, nothing to scroll through, nothing to listen to. You are left with the contents of your own mind. And for a lot of people, that is an uncomfortable place to be. The guilt about things left undone. The anxiety about the future. The low hum of dissatisfaction that they've been drowning out with noise. The dreams they said they'd pursue someday. The conversations they should have had. The person they wanted to become that they haven't yet become. All of that is waiting for them in the silence. And they'd rather keep the noise on. I understand. But here's what the Stoics knew. You cannot govern what you refuse to face. If you cannot sit with your own thoughts, those thoughts are governing you. If you cannot be in your own company without distraction, you don't know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, you are extraordinarily easy to manipulate. You'll follow whoever gives you the most stimulating narrative. You'll believe whatever confirms what you feel. You'll make decisions based on whoever got your attention last. Silence is not the absence of control. Silence is where control begins. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He spent time each morning in what can only be described as deliberate, quiet self-examination. He would ask himself, "What am I carrying from yesterday that I need to put down? What do I know to be true that I need to remember today? What kind of person have I been choosing to be, and is that the right choice?" These are not soft questions. These are the hardest questions you can ask yourself. And you cannot hear the answers in the noise. The visitors arrive in silence. The Stoics had a beautiful framework for understanding thoughts. They believed that thoughts were not you. They were visitors. And in the first quiet minutes of the morning, visitors arrive. Fear knocks on the door. What if today goes wrong? What if you're not good enough? What if everything falls apart? Laziness settles into the corner. You could just rest. Just this once. You worked hard yesterday. You deserve a break. Ambition steps forward. Today could be the day. Today you could actually change something. All of these visitors come. The only question that matters, is not whether they arrive. They always arrive. The question is, who answers the door? And who decides which visitors get to stay? In the noise, those visitors get confused with reality. Fear feels like fact. Laziness feels like wisdom. Doubt feels like evidence. But in silence, you can see them for what they are. Just thoughts. Just visitors. Passing through. And you, the observer, get to decide which ones deserve your attention, and which ones you can let walk right through and out the other side. This is the first act of freedom every morning. It doesn't require a meditation app. It doesn't require a guru. It requires 5 to 10 minutes of silence. That's all. The practice, silence as architecture. Here is how to do this. When your alarm goes off, do not touch your phone. Put it across the room the night before if you have to. Sit up. Feet on the floor. Spine straight. Open your eyes or close them, experiment, and see what works for you. And do nothing. For 5 minutes minimum. 10 if you can. Just breathe. If thoughts come, and they will, don't fight them. Just watch. Imagine yourself sitting by a river. The thoughts are leaves floating past on the surface. You don't jump in and grab them. You don't shout at them to stop. You just watch them float by. This is not about emptying your mind. Your mind will not empty. That's not the goal. The goal is to establish the watcher. To find that part of you that is observing the thoughts, rather than being swept away by them. Because that observer, that quiet, watching part of you, is the part that is actually in control. That is what the Stoics called the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty, the command center. And you activate it every morning by sitting in silence long enough to find it. Here is a simple breathing technique to anchor the practice. Inhale slowly for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale slowly for a count of 6. That exhale longer than the inhale is key. It physiologically activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It shifts your body from stress response to calm focus. It literally changes the chemistry of your brain within minutes. Do 3 to 5 cycles of that breath. Then just sit. Let the silence do its work. You will feel something after doing this consistently for 2 weeks. Not enlightenment. Not bliss. Something more useful. Clarity. A quiet confidence. A sense of being in your own body rather than swept along by the current. That is the foundation of everything that follows. Step 2, Negative Visualization, 2400 hours, 33:00. This is the most misunderstood practice in all of Stoicism. And when most people hear the name, they immediately recoil. Negative? I've been told to think positive. Why would I want to visualize bad things? Isn't that just making yourself depressed? I understand the reaction. But I want you to suspend that reaction for the next few minutes. because what I'm about to describe is one of the most psychologically powerful practices in human history. And once you understand why it works, you will never want to skip it. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It was not pessimism. It was not catastrophizing. It was not dwelling in fear. It was something far more sophisticated. The deliberate, controlled, temporary imagining of loss, in order to create presence, gratitude, and urgency. Let me show you what I mean with a story. In 1944, Viktor Frankl, a Jewish psychiatrist, was taken from his home in Vienna and sent to Auschwitz. He lost everything. His wife. His parents. His brother. His life's work. He was stripped of every external possession and forced to survive in conditions of unimaginable horror. And yet, in the middle of that horror, he discovered something. He writes about a moment, walking in the cold, exhausted, being marched to a work site before dawn, when he found himself thinking about his wife. Her image appeared in his mind. And in that moment of profound suffering, he felt something that can only be described as love. Gratitude. The awareness that she had existed. That their love had been real. That no external force, not the guards, not the cold, not the hunger, could touch what they had shared inside him. He later wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Now, I tell you that story not to make you feel heavy, but to point at something. The things we take most for granted are the things most worth paying attention to. And we only realize their value when we contemplate their absence. This is what negative visualization does. It creates the emotional experience of loss, briefly, safely, voluntarily. So that when you open your eyes, what you have feels like a gift. Not an entitlement. A gift. The practice, what would you miss most? Here is how to do this properly. After your silence, close your eyes again. And bring to mind something you take for granted. Your health. Your ability to work. Your relationships. Your freedom to walk out your door and choose your day. Now, and this is important, don't just think about it abstractly. Feel the loss. Imagine waking up tomorrow and it's gone. Your legs don't work. You can't speak. The person you love is no longer there. The business you've built is gone overnight. Really feel it. Let the weight of it land. Not to spiral. Not to panic. But to crack open your chest a little. To let the reality of impermanence in. And then, open your eyes. And realize it's not gone. It's here. Right in front of you. Right now. Today. What happens in that moment? Something shifts. The morning that felt ordinary a moment ago suddenly feels extraordinary. The coffee you're about to drink? You can taste it. The day ahead of you? It's full of possibility. The people in your life? You want to call them. This is gratitude, but not the greeting card version. Not the performance of gratitude. Real gratitude. Gratitude with weight. Gratitude with urgency. Gratitude that changes how you move through the day. Why most people don't have this? Here is what I observe about people who struggle with motivation. Not the ones who are lazy. The ones who are genuinely stuck. The ones who know what they should do, want to do it, but can't seem to make themselves. Almost always, the underlying issue is not laziness. It's entitlement. Not arrogant entitlement. Unconscious entitlement. The quiet assumption that the good things in life will always be there. That tomorrow will come. That there's always more time. That the relationships will survive being neglected a little longer. That the body will keep working no matter how it's treated. That the opportunity will still be there next week. This assumption is lethal. Not dramatically lethal. Slowly, quietly, consistently lethal. It's the reason people look up at 50 and realize they never did the thing. Never said the words. Never made the call. Never started. Because they always believed there was more time. Negative visualization is the antidote. Not a scary one. Not a depressing one. A clear-eyed, compassionate reminder. This is finite. Act accordingly. Seneca wrote it plainly. Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Not in despair. In liberation. Because when you truly accept that this might be one of your last mornings, you stop wasting it. You stop sleepwalking. You start showing up. 5 minutes. Every morning. Pick one thing to visualize losing. Feel it. Then open your eyes. And use what you have. Step 3. Define your day. Become the author. 33:00, 41:00. Most people move through their days like passengers. They sit in the back of the vehicle. They watch the scenery go by. They react to whatever the road brings. And at the end of the day, they're exhausted, not from driving, but from being thrown around by every bump. Stoics don't ride. They drive. And they decide the route before they pull out of the driveway. This is step 3. Defining your day. But I want to be very clear about what I mean by that. I am not talking about a to-do list. A to-do list is fine. Useful. Practical. But a to-do list answers the question, what will I do? That's not what we're after here. We're after the deeper question. Who will I be while I do it? Marcus Aurelius asked himself this every morning. He would write out, explicitly in detail, the kind of person he intended to be that day. Patient. Just. Disciplined. Calm under pressure. Resistant to flattery. Honest even when it cost him. He wrote these things not because he always felt them. He wrote them because he often didn't. He was angry sometimes. Impatient. Tempted by comfort. Frustrated by people who disappointed him. He was human. But he wrote down the ideal anyway. Because here is what the Stoics understood about human psychology centuries before neuroscience. We become what we repeatedly declare ourselves to be. Not what we occasionally feel. What we consistently choose. And choice requires intention. Intention requires articulation. Which is why writing matters. When you write something down, it leaves the world of abstraction and enters the world of commitment. A thought can be ignored. A written intention is a contract. The 3 questions. Every morning before you interact with a single other human being, answer these 3 questions in writing. Question 1. What is the one thing I must do today? Not a list of 10. Not everything you hope to accomplish. The one thing that, if done, makes this day a success regardless of everything else. The thing that matters most. The thing you've been putting off. The thing that moves you forward. One thing. Write it down. Question 2. What kind of person will I be today? Pick 3 words. Just 3. Focused. Patient. Courageous. Or calm. Direct. Present. Or disciplined. Kind. Relentless. Choose your 3 words. Write them at the top of your page. And return to them throughout the day when you drift, because you will drift. Everyone drifts. The difference between people who change and people who don't is not that one group never drifts. It's that one group knows how to return. Question 3. What would the best version of me do today in the hardest moment? Because the hardest moment is coming. It always comes. Someone will frustrate you. Something will go wrong. A plan will fall apart. You will be tempted to react. To snap. To give up. To go back to the comfortable default. And in that moment, you need to know the answer before the question arrives. So decide now. When it gets hard today, what will the best version of you do? Write the answer. And then, when the hard moment comes, you'll have something to return to. Not a feeling. Feelings are unreliable. Not motivation. Motivation is weather. A decision. A pre-made commitment. A declaration. This is how Stoics turned ordinary days into extraordinary ones. Not by having easier days. By being more prepared for difficult ones. The power of the predecision. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called implementation intention. It was developed by psychologist Peter Gallwitzer. The basic idea is this. People who decide in advance how they will respond to a specific situation are dramatically more likely to follow through than people who rely on in-the-moment decision-making. Specifically, the formula is, if X happens, I will do Y. If I feel the urge to scroll when I'm bored, I will go for a walk instead. If someone frustrates me today, I will pause before I respond. If I want to quit in the afternoon, I will work for 5 more minutes and then reassess. This is not complicated. This is the Stoic strategy, confirmed 2,000 years later by science. The predecision is more powerful than the in-the-moment choice. Because in the moment, you are tired, triggered, or tempted. But in the morning, before any of that has happened, you are clear. You are calm. You are capable of choosing with your best judgment. So choose then. Write it down. And give your future self the gift of already knowing what to do. This practice alone, this 5-minute ritual of writing your intention, will change the quality of your decisions more than almost anything else. Not because you become perfect. Because you become less surprised by yourself. And that is the beginning of self-mastery. Step 4. Do one hard thing immediately. Here we arrive at the step that separates philosophy from transformation. Because everything up to this point has been internal. Silence. Visualization. Intention. All of it lives in the mind. But the Stoics were not passive philosophers. They were warriors. They were governors and generals. They were people who believed that virtue was not a feeling or a belief. It was an action. Epictetus said it with characteristic bluntness. If you want to make progress, be willing to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, do the uncomfortable thing. Do the thing that makes you look like you're working too hard. Do the thing that your past self would have avoided. Because every time you choose difficulty voluntarily, you grow. And every time you choose comfort unnecessarily, you shrink. This is not an opinion. This is the mechanism of human development. Why hardness is the point. Think about what happens when you lift weights. You create tiny tears in the muscle tissue. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. And during the process, you're technically weaker than when you started. But then something extraordinary happens. Your body, responding to the stress, rebuilds. And it rebuilds stronger than before. The discomfort was not the enemy. The discomfort was the signal. The signal that said, something is being demanded of this tissue that it cannot yet handle. And the body responds by building the capacity to handle it. This same mechanism applies to the mind. Every time you push through discomfort, your mind gets a signal. Something is being demanded of this person that their current self cannot easily do. And the brain responds. New neural pathways. New identity evidence. New proof that you are capable of more than you thought. This is not metaphor. This is neuroplasticity. Your brain literally rewires itself based on the experiences you put it through. Voluntarily doing hard things in the morning is how you rebuild yourself from the inside out. The compounding effect of morning difficulty. Here's something nobody talks about. The hard thing you do in the morning doesn't just help you in the morning. It changes how you handle difficulty for the entire rest of the day. There is a psychological phenomenon sometimes called ego depletion. The idea that willpower and self-regulation draw from a limited reserve. But there's a counterpart that's less discussed. Identity anchoring. When you do something hard first thing in the morning, you create an identity anchor. A piece of evidence about who you are. And that evidence sits in the background of every decision you make for the rest of the day. When someone challenges you in a meeting and you feel the urge to snap, somewhere in the back of your mind a voice says, I already did something hard this morning. I can handle this. When an obstacle appears and you feel the urge to quit, that same voice says, I already pushed through resistance today. I know what that feels like. I can do it again. The cold shower isn't about temperature. The workout isn't about fitness. The hour of deep work before emails isn't about productivity. They are about building a self-concept. A daily, repeated, embodied declaration. I am someone who does hard things. I am someone who doesn't wait to feel ready. I am someone who acts despite resistance. Say that enough mornings. Live it enough mornings. And one day you realize, it's no longer a declaration. It's just the truth. What does hard actually mean? I want to address this because it comes up constantly. People hear, do something hard, and they imagine a 2-hour workout, or an ice bath, or waking up at 4 a.m. That's not what this is about. Hard is relative. Hard is personal. For someone who has been sedentary for years, a 10-minute walk is hard. For someone who has been avoiding a creative project, sitting down and writing one paragraph is hard. For someone who has been numbing out with entertainment, 30 minutes of focused reading is hard. The question is not, is this impressive? The question is this where my resistance lives? Because that is where the growth lives. The Stoics had a concept, ascesis. Deliberate practice. Training. Not punishment. Practice. Athletes train not because the training itself is the goal, but because the training builds the capacity to perform when it matters. Your morning hard thing is training. Training for life. For the moments that require all of you. For the setbacks that would break someone who hasn't been building strength. For the opportunities that require courage you haven't yet needed. Start where you are. 5 push-ups. A cold 30 seconds at the end of your shower. 1 page of writing before you check anything. A 20-minute walk before the phone goes on. Something small. Something real. Something uncomfortable. Do it. Every morning. Watch what happens to you over 60 days. A story about small hard things. In 2012, a man named David Goggins was an overweight exterminator living in Indiana. He weighed 300 pounds. He had a history of abuse. He was sleeping on a couch. He had no plan for his life. And one night, he watched a documentary about Navy SEALs. He decided he wanted to become one. Not because he was close to ready. Because he was as far from ready as a person could be. And here's what he did. He didn't change everything at once. He started with one hard thing. Running. He could barely run a mile without stopping. So he ran a mile. The next morning, he ran again. And again. And again. The hard thing he started with was small. But it was real. And it was consistent. Within months, he had lost 100 pounds. Within a year, he had become one of the few people in history to complete Navy SEAL training, Army Ranger School, and Air Force Tactical Air Controller training. He broke a world record for pull-ups. He ran ultramarathons. He became one of the most decorated endurance athletes in the world. Was he special? He'll be the first one to tell you, no. What was special was the daily decision. The daily choice of hard over comfortable. Small hard things, done consistently over time. That is the mechanism. That is the secret that isn't really a secret. It just requires you to actually do it. Tomorrow morning. One hard thing. Your choice. Step 5. Control your input, guard the gate. We have arrived at the final step. And I want to revisit what I promised you at the beginning. The one mistake that destroys everything. Even if you do the other 4 steps perfectly. Even if you sit in silence, do the visualization, write your intention, and do something hard. This one mistake can unravel all of it in less than 60 seconds. Are you ready? Here it is. Opening your phone without intention. That's it. That's the mistake. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just one unguarded moment. One reflexive reach. One scroll before you've consciously decided to scroll. And suddenly, the clarity you built in your silence is gone. The urgency you created in your negative visualization is gone. The identity you reinforced by doing something hard starts to blur. Because you've just handed the command center of your mind to the most stimulation maximizing, attention capturing system ever built by human beings. And it doesn't let go easily. Let me explain why this moment is so critical. The Stoic concept of the ruling mind. The Stoics had a term, hegemonikon. It means the ruling faculty. The part of the mind that evaluates, judges, and chooses. They believe this was the seat of all virtue. Not the emotions. Emotions happen to you. Not the body. The body has its own impulses. But the ruling faculty, the part that decides what to do with the emotions, with the impulses, with the information that comes in. That is the part that makes you who you are. And they believed, with absolute conviction, that this faculty could be strengthened or weakened. Not by dramatic events. By small, repeated choices about what you allow in. What you read. What you listen to. Who you spend time with. What stories you tell yourself. What you give your attention to. Epictetus put it this way. Be careful to whom you give your attention. What you attend to becomes part of you. 2,000 years before social media, behavioral psychology, or dopamine research. He understood that input shapes identity. That what you consume you become. And he didn't say it as motivation. He said it as warning. The information environment you live in. Let me describe something. Every major social media platform in existence has been deliberately engineered to maximize engagement. That sounds neutral. It's not. Engagement, in practice, means keeping you on the platform as long as possible. And what keeps people on platforms longest? Not joy. Not inspiration. Not useful information. Outrage. Anxiety. Comparison. Tribal conflict. Fear. These are the emotions that generate the most clicks, the most shares, the most time on platform. So the algorithm, not a person, not a committee, just pure optimization logic, learns what makes you feel those things. And it serves you more of it. More outrage. More fear. More comparison. More of whatever keeps your thumb scrolling and your eyes on the screen. This system is running all the time. But it is most dangerous in the morning. When your defenses are lowest. When your mind is most impressionable. When the emotional tone of everything you encounter will echo through your entire day. Opening social media in the first hour after waking up is walking into the most sophisticated psychological influence machine ever built. With your arms open and your guard down. And handing your morning, your whole morning, to whatever mood it decides to put you in. This is not paranoia. This is just understanding the system you're participating in. What to do instead. The Stoic practice for this step is simple. Before you consume anything, ask one question. Is this making me stronger or weaker? Not, is this interesting? Not, will I miss something important? Not, what if someone needs me? Stronger. Or weaker. If you read something that gives you genuine knowledge, perspective, or inspiration. Stronger. If you scroll through a feed that makes you feel behind, anxious, or outraged. Weaker. If you listen to a conversation that builds your thinking. Stronger. If you check messages before you've had a clear thought of your own. Weaker. This single filter, applied consistently, every morning, will transform your relationship with information. Not by making you ignorant. By making you intentional. There is a difference between being informed and being consumed. Being informed means choosing what you need to know. Being consumed means letting the world pour into you without filter. The Stoics wanted you informed. They despised being consumed. Practical rules for the morning gate. Here are concrete rules to implement today. Rule 1. Your phone does not come off airplane mode for the first 60 minutes after waking. Not 45. 60. You need enough buffer time to complete your morning routine before the world can interrupt. Rule 2. No news before your one priority task is done. The news will still be there at 10 a.m. Your brain will not be in the same state at 10 a.m. Do your most important work first, while you are clearest. Then check the world. Rule 3. No social media before noon. This one is harder. But try it for 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. And pay attention to what happens to your focus, your mood, and your productivity. The data will convince you. Rule 4. If you must use your phone in the morning, use it with a list. Before you open it, Write down exactly what you are going to do. Check for messages from family. Read 2 pages of this book. That's it. Then do only those things. Close the apps. Put the phone face down. Intentional use is not addiction. Addiction is what happens when there is no list. Rule 5. Notice the urge. When you feel the pull to check your phone before you've done your routine, don't fight it. Just notice it. Interesting. I feel the urge to scroll. And then make a choice. Not a reflex. A choice. That gap, between the urge and the action, is where your freedom lives. Every time you choose not to scroll in that gap, the gap gets bigger. Your freedom gets wider. Until one day, the urge barely whispers. And you are in control. That is the goal. Not perfection. Not never feeling the pull. The goal is to be the one who chooses. Every morning. One moment at a time. Part 3. The compound effect. Why this routine rewires everything. I want to take a step back now and talk about what this routine is actually doing at a deeper level. Because it's easy to think of this as a collection of habits. Wake up in silence, check. Negative visualization, check. Define your day, check. Do something hard, check. Control your input, check. And there's nothing wrong with thinking of it that way. But I want you to understand something more fundamental. This routine is not a set of habits. It is a philosophy made physical. Stoicism was never just a set of ideas to believe. It was a set of practices to live. The Stoics were suspicious of theory that didn't change behavior. They had a phrase, logos kai bios, word and life. Philosophy and action must match. Otherwise the philosophy is just entertainment. And this routine is the translation of their deepest principles into concrete, daily action. The philosophy behind each step. The silence is the practice of prosok, self-attention. The ancient art of watching your own mind rather than being swept away by it. The negative visualization is the practice of memento mori, remembrance of death and impermanence. The discipline that comes from knowing nothing lasts forever. The defining of your day is the practice of prohairesis, the exercise of will and choice. The Stoic conviction that the quality of your choices is the quality of your character. The hard thing is the practice of ascesis, deliberate training. The understanding that comfort is not a destination, it is a trap. The controlled input is the practice of epike, suspension of judgment. Choosing not to react immediately to every stimulus that enters your field of awareness. 5 practices. 5 ancient Greek concepts. 5 daily actions. 1 morning. 1 life. The science of compound change. Here is what the research tells us about consistent routines. It takes approximately 66 days, not 21, as the old myth suggested, for a new behavior to become automatic. In those 66 days, your brain is physically restructuring. New synaptic connections are forming. The neural pathway of your old default morning is weakening. The neural pathway of your new morning is getting stronger. Every repetition matters. Every morning you do this, you are laying one more brick. You cannot see the building being built. In the early days, you will just feel the weight of the bricks. The discomfort of change. The temptation to return to the comfortable chaos. But around day 30, something starts to shift. The silence feels less scary and more necessary. The visualization becomes second nature. The hard thing actually feels satisfying rather than merely difficult. And by day 60, you won't recognize your mornings. You won't recognize your focus. You won't recognize how you respond to pressure. People around you will notice. They won't know why. But you will. And more than that, you'll feel it. The quiet, unshakable sense of being in control of your own life. Not perfectly. Not always. But fundamentally. Foundationally. In the place that matters most. I need to tell you something honest before I let you go. Most people watching this right now will not do this routine tomorrow. Not because they can't. Not because they disagree. Because there will be a reason not to. I'll start Monday. I'll start after this busy week. I need to do more research first. I need to feel ready. I know this because that is what minds do. They protect the familiar. Even when the familiar is hurting you. Even when you know, intellectually, clearly, that what you're currently doing is not working. The mind will find reasons to stay with it. Because the familiar feels safe. And change, even positive change, feels like a threat. But here is what I want you to remember. The Stoics did not wait to feel ready. Marcus Aurelius did not feel like an enlightened emperor every morning. He wrote, in his own hand, about how hard it was to get out of bed. He wrote about the temptation to stay comfortable. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was reminding himself. Because he needed the reminder. Just like you do. Just like I do. The routine does not require you to feel motivated. It requires you to move. Sit. Breathe. Write. Act. Feel it or not. Moved or not. Ready or not. Just begin. Because readiness is not a prerequisite for starting. Starting is the prerequisite for readiness. You build the capacity to do this by doing this. Not by waiting until you're capable. The two kinds of people. I want to end with this. There are two kinds of people who watch videos like this. The first kind takes notes. They feel inspired. They think, this makes so much sense. I should do this. And then tomorrow morning, the alarm goes off. The phone is right there. The notification lights are blinking. And they reach for it. Because the feeling passed. Because inspiration is temporary. Because they relied on how they feel to decide whether to act. The second kind also takes notes. Also feels inspired. And they also feel the pull tomorrow morning. The phone. The comfort. The familiar. But they do something different. They don't ask themselves if they feel like it. They have already decided. The night before, they put the phone across the room. They set an alarm with a note that says, sit. Breathe. 5 minutes. They wrote down their commitment before they went to sleep. And in the morning, they don't feel their way into action. They act their way into feeling. They sit in the silence. It's uncomfortable. They do it anyway. They do the visualization. It's unfamiliar. They do it anyway. They define their day. It takes effort. They do it anyway. They do one hard thing. It's difficult. They do it anyway. They close the apps. It takes willpower. They do it anyway. And then, and this is the part that changes everything. They do it again tomorrow. And the day after. Not perfectly. Not without missing days. But consistently. As a practice. As a commitment. As a declaration about who they are choosing to become. That second person is not born different. They are not specially disciplined or extraordinarily motivated. They simply made the decision. And kept making it. Morning after morning. One silent, deliberate, invisible battle at a time. And one day, people look at them and say, "How are you so calm? How do you handle that much without falling apart? What's your secret?" And the answer is boring. But it's real. I showed up for myself every morning. Even when I didn't feel like it. Especially when I didn't feel like it. That's it. That's the whole thing. And it's available to you. Tomorrow morning. The alarm will go off. And you will have a choice. The same choice Marcus Aurelius had. The same choice Epictetus made. The same choice every person who ever built something real out of their life eventually made. Surrender. Or show up. Choose to show up. Before you leave this video, do one thing. Put your phone across the room tonight. Right now, decide, tomorrow morning, the phone stays away for the first hour. That's all I'm asking. 1 hour. Use that hour the way I've described. Even imperfectly. Even if you only manage the silence and nothing else. And then come back here. Tell me in the comments, what did you notice? Even one sentence. Even I sat in silence for 2 minutes and felt uncomfortable, and then looked out the window and breathed. That counts. That is the beginning. Because the person who does that tomorrow morning is already different from the person who is watching this tonight. They have chosen. And choosing, consistently, is how you become. Subscribe if you want more of this. Not more content. More of this specific kind of thinking. The kind that takes ideas seriously. The kind that asks what ancient wisdom actually demands of us, not just what it tells us to feel. Share this with someone who needs it. You'll know who. Leave a comment with one word, the word that describes the person you're trying to become through your mornings. Mine is unshakable. What's yours? The Stoics believed every single day was a new life. A chance to begin again. To choose again. To be, once more, the author of yourself. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, that chance will arrive. Don't waste it.